The first time I heard the concept of racial profiling, I had to be no older than around 10 years old. And I had just moved to the States. We had just gotten our green card. So, I'm acclimating to the environment. I'm absorbing the culture per se. And one of these ideas that I heard time and time again was about racial profiling. I remember my folks watching the news and they were talking about different situations taking place, especially on the East Coast, New York specifically, where I guess there were new laws that were based on racial profiling, or at least that's how it was demonstrated. And so, for most of my young life, I believed that this idea of racial profiling was simply racist, that there was nothing else to the conversation. Well, times have changed, and I have since come to an understanding that these subjects are a lot more complex than we would like to give any sort of credit for, right? It would be easier just to say, you know what? Yeah, that is racist. We should never do that and let it be. However, with this new introduction of a remix of racial profiling, which is pattern recognition, I feel like it gives us greater insight. So why is it that, let's say New York City, before it became wokeified, why is it that they saw it as necessary to begin to profile on the basis of external appearance? And to that, I would say, because they came to realize that there were certain individuals who looked a certain way that were committing a majority of the crimes. This is true for any sector of the world, any community. They say a small percentage is committing all of the crimes or all of the most heinous and violent crimes. It's a small percentage. So 10% is committing like 70, 80% of the crime, something like that, or 6-7% is creating, 80% of the havoc. So if you're looking to pin these individuals down or those who associated with them, the easiest thing to do in my own logic is to look for people who fit that description. And this is coming from a quote unquote young black man, right? There is a possibility that if I dress up in a certain way, I am going to be essentially in parallel with an individual who is in the street culture. And for quite a bit of time of my life, unfortunately, I gave myself over to that because I believed that to be black meant to be a part of street culture. It meant to be street, meant to be hood, meant to sell dope and use dope and things of that nature. So I got caught up. Guilty as charged. For anybody who wants to bring up receipts in the future and say, he's not no saint, he's not perfect, look at him. Yeah, I got my track record. That's why I speak on these things boldly, because I understand where they lead to. However, back to the subject at hand. So why would the police force be told to if it wasn't for just blatant systemic racism? Because that's the easiest place to go, especially with all of this, white supremacy rhetoric that's being pushed for the longest at this point. I'm not saying there isn't such a thing, but that's not the biggest problem in modern day society, at least not modern Western or modern American society. It is not racism that is the biggest problem, or white supremacy. Sure, your worldview may tell you that or inform you of that because you've been programmed. You've been sold a lie by the race hustlers who look to radicalize you, who look to emotionalize you so they can have control over you, because angry people are easy to control. So racial profiling, what was the core of it outside of genuine systemic racism, that of the Democratic Party who institutionalized Jim Crow and things of that nature? What was it actually about in modern history or modern context? It's about the very same thing that had an individual like Jesse Jackson, most famously known for his race hustling career. One of the greatest. He's on the Mount Rushmore of race hustlers. Him, Al Sharpton. There's honorary mentions like the Jesse Smolieres and all these sorts of individuals, right? The biggest race hoaxers. But Jesse Jackson spoke in a video that people have referred me to quite a bit now, where he was saying he was walking down a street in New York, nighttime. I think it was New York, somewhere in the East Coast. Nighttime, pitch black, and somebody was walking behind him. He heard the footsteps and he got afraid. He looked back, couldn't see nobody. He got even more afraid. And then the person caught up to him and he said he was relieved because it was a white person. Now, some people say, wow, that is just flat out purebred racism. How dare he But you know what? I've had that feeling before. And my feeling was valid because when I look back on a lifetime of experiences, more times than not, when I have my life threatened, genuinely threatened, right? I'm not talking about in my head microaggressions. No, I'm talking about genuinely threatened. I will take your life sort of threats. It has been from people who look just like me to this day. Anytime I've gotten threats from somebody, it comes from somebody who looks like me, a white liberal who's pissed off that I'm not subscribing to their own ideology and they can't control me. But when I get to the core of it, it's the same demographic. It's interesting. So what do I do? Well, what does the brain do? Autopilot, subconsciously, it begins to recognize the patterns. It begins to create profiles. And if some of those have racial attributes, then that's what it's going to be. And it's quite unfortunate. That's why I speak to the culture and why it's necessary for us to completely, quote unquote, divest. It's a word that they've created, trying to separate us from them, but to divest ourselves from the ghetto culture, because these people make it harder for us, because the subconscious mind is going to pick up what it picks up. So if it says, wait a minute, these people committing a majority of the crimes, these people are criminals, then a person who looks like me, if they're committing all the crimes, then guess what it's going to be? It's going to be me who's going to get profiled. And can I even be pissed off about that? I might be at a personal level, but I can also see exactly why. Unfortunately, that is racial profiling. That's what I know. It's not an easy shift of reality, or sometimes it is something that like in your heart of hearts, you know what it's about, but you don't want to accept it because what does that mean about me? Well, it means nothing about you personally, but it means something about the culture that is producing individuals of this likeness who are committing a majority of the crimes and are the most dangerous within a society. If you had 10 green men in a village of 50 people, 10 green men who are doing a majority of the havoc, you have 3 blue, 2 purple, 8 silver, but 10 green men. Well, you're going to look at silver funny too. But 10 green men out of us 50, 1 out of 5 of us you're going to start looking at green a little different. You as another green member of that society, you're going to start to look at green a little different. And so we use these markers. And it's unfortunate, again, because in some cases, it's not the case. But in other cases, it is. Oh, man, I'm so sorry. I thought you were going to rob my store. Why? I don't know, because, you fit the profile. How dare you? Yeah, I know, but the times I was wrong, I got robbed. The times I was wrong, I got robbed. So what is the wisest thing to do? It's to profile. It's to recognize the patterns. I profile. I judge. I discern. Sometimes I am wrong. And guess what? It's quite unfortunate. But for all the times that I'm wrong are made up for when I'm right. That's our biology is wired for that. Threat, 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 potential threat, potential threat, potential threat. You evade the potential threat. Oh man, it wasn't a potential threat. Evade potential threat. Oh man, it wasn't. Evade potential threat. It was a threat. Bingo. Bingo. Now, am I saying that folks need to be thrown in jail? Now, am I saying that folks need to be targeted and just, that's a different conversation entirely. To say you're being wrongfully incarcerated, you're being wrongfully accused, and there are consequences on the basis of things that you did not do. That's a completely different story. That's a completely different story. But as far as perception goes, that's why we need to clean out the gutters. If we have a positive experience, you travel the world a little bit and you start to see, these are different peoples living in different ways. You got places in Europe where Africans there are wholesome, good peoples. Black peoples are respected peoples. Everybody knows, oh man, you deal with them, you deal with the Ethiopians, it's going to be good. Yeah, there might be a few bad seeds, but overall, culture-wise, they respect family. They respect this, they respect that, they respect this. And I'm not saying this because I'm Ethiopian. They think I'm Ethiopian. I don't know. I'm, yet to do a DNA test coming soon. I might share that with y'all. But overall, solid people. Deal with the Kenyans. Solid people. Zimbabweans. Solid people. And then you start getting other demographics. Wait a minute. Why is it that more times than not, when I deal with these suspect, when I deal with these types of, they're Latin Americans. Y'all know the certain subsects, tribes, or just people from different countries in South America. You know who to deal with and who not to. You know who you're profiling. Y'all know. It's an in-house thing, and I'm trying to take all in-house conversations out-house. I'm not afraid to have these conversations out loud because it's the only way you actually get something done. Stop lying. Stop pretending. It's not helping you. It's not serving the purpose of change. It's actually keeping the very same infestation in-house. The asbestos is not removed by not talking about it. It is removed when you finally bring a light upon it and you make a decision to remove it. Oh man, it's racism, it's racism, it's racism. No, racism is saying my race is better than your race on the basis of my race alone. That's racial superiority. And a lot of black folks have it, just like white folks have it. Most people have that. There's narcissistic tendencies that are there in all of us at some degree. All of us are having an internalized experience. But when it gets to this thing of, well, I've seen this, I've heard this, and maybe experiences change that. Maybe you had one bad experience and it paints your entire worldview and you need to overcome that. Those have been the cases in some cases. Those have been the cases in some cases. That's been the case at some times. A grandfather, old white man, racist his whole life, has a black grandchild. Racism dissipates because he finally sees, wow, this is me. These are real life stories. But I'll be a damn liar to tell y'all that I don't go out in my life and say, this person, sketch. I'll see people, whatever you are. I know how to spot a crackhead. White crackhead as good as anybody else. I lived in a small town, majority white population for enough of my life to pinpoint. That one right there, sketch. That one right there. Nope. That's profiling. That's profiling. They've just made the racial element because unfortunately, one of the characteristics that's highlighting is, again, black folks have accepted a culture that has not been so conducive. And I mean most, because we won't say it's a small population. No, most have accepted aspects of this culture. Maybe not all of it, but just enough ratchet. Oh, the girlies, they graduated university. Now they twerking all over the damn floor at graduation. That's a part of the culture and what it's accepted. Why do we got doctors and lawyers twerking it in public like that? What's that about? Culture. Culture. What is acceptable? What is not? What is enabled? What is not? What is allowed? What is promoted? What is not? Culture. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Now, if you'd like to stay around, make sure to click that little subscribe button down there, or you can show some love by going to the description below and clicking on the button titled Buy Me a Coffee. Leave a little something there, or click on the Cash App. Leave a little something here. Till the next time, peace.
I fell in love with the sunshine. I fell in love with the light. I fell in love with the full moon. I fell in love with the night. I can see the light again. I can see the light. You can see the life in him illuminate the night. I know the time is taking. A 3, 6, 5, that's a full rotation. I see you looking up. You know them constellations. Constantly gazing like house of praises. You get to praising.